It is Valentine's week. And that, for many people, is fraught with hopes and dreams and no thank you, not interested. Some of us are in good relationships. Some of us are in hard relationships. Some of us are in no relationships. And in this week's podcast, I actually want to dive into something that is so crucial to every human heart. Everyone has a story of love, and the story of how you have learned love and the fears around it, the rejection, the conditions of love. That is actually one of the most central stories of your life. How have you learned love? So we're actually going to sit around as a group of guys and we're going to share some notes around Valentine's Day. But then I want to talk about the deep, deep significance of our story of love so that we can all, wherever we are this week, ask God into that. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Wild at Heart podcast here in the week of February 12th, or more importantly said, the week of Valentine's Day, 2 days away. And thus, a group of guys sitting around the table here this week. Alan, welcome back.
Thanks, John.
Want to introduce Dave on our team, who handles all of our video content and produces the podcast for us each week. Good to have you, Dave.
Thanks.
And Conrad, who works in our deep discipleship track with Morgan and the Become a Good Soil world. You're going to understand why I asked 3 other guys into the studio here in Valentine's week in just a minute. But before we dive in, let's do what we always do. Let's get rid of the chaos. Let's get rid of the pressures, whatever has already grabbed you. Let's take a moment to do the pause, release everything, everyone to God so that we can be present to what He has for us here in the podcast. Yeah, Jesus, we do. We release everything to you right now. All of the pressures, the fears, all of the messages that we've already received in this day or into the week. Jesus, I need to release all of that to you right now, to come back to my own heart, my own soul, and to come back to you. So just take a moment, friends, and just give everyone and everything to Jesus. And I ask that you would restore my union with you, God. Deepen, strengthen, and restore my union with you. Give me eyes to see and ears to hear how you're moving and how you're speaking to me, even right here in this week's podcast. Amen. Okay. I almost want to apologize to the guys who are watching this, because 2 days notice may not have been exactly helpful. Right. Conrad was saying before we started recording, God, we probably should have done this last week to just give guys a heads up, because if you're listening to this on Wednesday, it's too late.
Right.
But okay, so it's Valentine's Day, Valentine's week, and that is a holiday that tends to have a lot of ambivalent feelings around it. Maybe we say gently, a lot of anticipation, perhaps for some, maybe fear and imminent failure for others. So I know. It would have been fair to do 2 back-to-back that had the ladies, but we had a series going and then we landed in this week and we went, let's at least talk to the guys.
Yeah.
And share honestly about Valentine's Day, what it raises in us, so that we can get to something good. The overall goal here is not to diss Valentine's Day. The goal is, we think we have some notes from our playbook over the years that might be helpful to men and women listening to this. So yeah, we also want to get some younger younger blood in the room here as well. You got the sage, right? You have the king.
Yes.
And then, you have a couple warrior lovers here. So,
And John, let me tell you, in terms of getting guys in here, just to show the kind of the kryptonite around Valentine's Day for men, one guy on our team, I won't say his name, I probably should, but I won't, who I talked to early on said, I think I may have jury duty that day, and I'm hoping I get called in rather than you call me into the podcast. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Okay. So pressure around Valentine's Day. It's 2 days away. Let's be honest. What are you feeling?
Yeah, pressure, totally. And if I can get underneath it and actually say, okay, Jesus, what is the pressure about?
Yeah.
That alone helps. Just like I can feel the release valve of
Okay.
even just to say Jesus' name and invite him into. Even Valentine's Day, I need the rest of my salvation. Maybe more than other days, right? So pressure, am I going to go down that rabbit trail, or pause and just take a breath with Jesus and see what he's up to?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys relate to pressure?
Oh, for sure. Traditionally we don't really celebrate too much on Valentine's Day. It's not a big significant day for us. But
Wait, what?
I know, a lot of reasons.
How?
A big part of that was some things it meant to my wife, right, in the past. But what that's turned into is it's not on my radar. So actually 2 days before feels awesome.
Hey,
Thank you. Kind of feels like a kind rescue. Like typically it's the night before. I'm like, oh, that's silly to not celebrate it. I want to, honor my wife. I want to cherish her and celebrate her. And so then I'm the guy at the grocery store picking through the wilted flowers, buying 2 dozen so that I can pick out 6 and some other twigs and make a little, bouquet to try to bring some meaning and honor her and celebrate her. And so that's when I usually feel the pressure is in a day or so. So this is good. I'll go get some flowers after this. There might be a few left.
Yeah. I've been the guy in the card aisle.
Yeah.
On the 13th.
Nothing left.
At 10 p.m. I've been that guy.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. And it's a horrible feeling of like, you suck at this, John. You don't love well. You're not romantic.
Yes.
And we don't want that.
Right.
We don't want impending failure to already cast a shadow over it. So
for me, it's the holiday on the calendar every year that I find myself most wanting to come through for Kelly and feeling the least capable of any holiday. Like I know I can find a Christmas gift. Yeah. I know, her birthday, I tend to navigate that pretty well. And she doesn't put expectations on me, but I feel this pressure mounting in me of do something that's significant or that matters or that's fresh and creative, and never quite feel I'm going to come through. And so it's led to some awkward stumbles on my part. And there's a sense coming into it every year of tension that I wish wasn't there. And it's all me. It's not her.
Yeah. But it's also the culture, right? There is this, we live in a world, we breathe its air. There is pressure to be amazing and to come through, right? And my particular dilemma is that Valentine's Day is Stacy's favorite holiday of the year.
Whoa.
More than her birthday, more than Christmas.
I was gonna say more than Christmas? That's a big one.
That may have shifted a little bit, but she loves it. And she loves love. And I think it has a lot of childhood positive associations to her. And for me over the years, it was my least favorite holiday. And so we had that going on. Like we were already starting a pretty different set of expectations. So I only felt it as pressure. And I resented it. I resented it. I'm like, well, why is the world telling us that on a particular moment, on a particular day, we're going to feel really romantic?
Yeah.
I'm like, it just doesn't work. Pressure kills everything it touches.
Yes.
It kills your joy. It'll kill a birthday, a vacation, right? So, yeah, I had to really come closer to her loves, desires. And again, she would say, honey, I am not putting any pressure around this at all. But nonetheless, you still feel it.
Totally.
Come on, be the man, show up, come through. Don't be
Yeah.
the guy in the aisle at 10 p.m. on the 13th. Like, come on. So there is pressure there.
Totally. And I've been that guy in the aisle. And the worst part is when you're looking at cards and all of the wife cards are gone. So you're looking now at best friend or some generic thing.
Yes.
And then have y'all noticed the cards you find, like the world already is kind of throwing men under the bus and adding pressure, because Hallmark cards, so many of the Valentine ones start out like, I know I never tell you I love you, or I know I often don't come through for you. And you're like, what? Like even the card is coming against me when I'm trying to find one.
Well, I'm struck by that, Alan, because what I'm aware of is that starting with like a pretty like diminished view of masculinity, right? And rather than bless the beauty and the distinction of Valentine's Day might actually mean something different for a man than a woman.
Yes.
We just it's kind of in this thing of like, better get this card and this chocolates. And then it leaves men with this like kind of like learned helplessness or this helpless space on Valentine's Day.
Right.
And I've had to, honestly, I learned from my kids. Funny story, just recently, it felt like it was from God of like, hey, wake up and just let me start this Valentine's Day. I didn't know it was about Valentine's Day until this podcast, but let me start by blessing your heart and Samantha's heart. So the story, January 2nd, January 3rd, I think we took down our Christmas tree. And so the following day, coming to the outpost, we're kind of coming back from Sabbath, connecting, figuring out what our year's holding. And I come home from work, I'm walking up the stairs, and you never know what you're walking into. 3 young kids, 7, 5, and 3, a beautiful bride. We just celebrated 10 years of marriage. And so it can be anything. And so my practice is walk up the stairs, Jesus, I need you. That's it. Walk up the stairs, I turn the corner and I see delight and I see joy. My 2 little princesses, 7 and 5, are like kind of like hiding the living room mantle. You can tell they're doing something together and they're like kind of squealing with laughter. And my wife's over there doing it too. And I don't know where my son is. My son's 3 and I don't know where he's at right now. But they turn around and they say, surprise! And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be surprised about. I can't really see what's going on. As I get closer and as I get the story from Samantha, the girls spent the afternoon at Hobby Lobby decorating and buying things to decorate the mantle for Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And it's January 4th or 5th, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact date, but internally,
oh my gosh,
I'm feeling the pressure again.
Yes.
And the red alert system's going, oh my God, what do I do with this? We spent money.
We're starting today.
In January, right?
Yes.
And it's oh crap mode. And then by the grace of God, Braddock, my son, runs in. He has a toy boxing glove on one hand. He has a Nerf dart gun in another. And he's just like, Daddy's home. And he shoots the dart gun like towards the Valentine's Day decor. It was beautiful. But in that moment, I was like, oh, right. My daughters spent time and energy on this. Braddock just wants to play. And it was this beautiful picture and even kindness to the men and women listening of like, it might mean something different, right? Yeah. And so I think to start in that as just a container for the conversation is just so helpful.
That's good.
Yes.
That's really good. Okay. So where I want to get to, listeners, is helpful notes learned. Helpful notes learned. Like what's worked? How do you get it back out of the culture and its definition, and how do we get into something that could be really sweet? But before we get there, lessons learned from failures, like Valentine's days that maybe didn't go so well. Because those, I mean, we learn from our
Who wants to go first, boys?
Hey.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's the ones where I completely forgot. Often, it's kind of like you're talking about the 2 different pressures of your wife and you engaging. And oh, you still want to show up, but it's kind of like, oh, let's not get each other Christmas presents this year. We'll just spend the money on the kids. And it's like, yeah. I think I'm still supposed to get something, right?
You know, don't believe her.
Exactly. I need to show up still. And so those are, I feel like, my biggest failures is when I completely space it.
Yep.
Or get the wrong thing, you know, like I buy chocolates and I forget she's allergic to coconut or whatever. And it's like full of it, you know, like what was I thinking?
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm thinking for me, there's so many moments and times of failure. And I look back and that word pressure, I just recognize it it strangles me. The pressure strangles me to where I either am paralyzed or I just fall into, well, I'll just get something so I can check it off the check it off the list, right? And so I would just get flowers for years. And finally, my wife, so beautiful and so loving, is like, hey, Conrad, I hate flowers. And I'm like, yeah. Why would I get you something you don't like on a day that actually holds a lot of story for me and Samantha? And then it just began this thing of like, okay, this simple thing of like, well, why don't you just ask her what she wants on Valentine's Day? Like, I didn't do that for years, right? Yeah. And so just, that's what's coming to mind.
And not just once in terms of a gift,
right?
But you're saying expectations around the day. What do you want? What do you want to do this year, babe?
And it's an opportunity to, as you've taught us in spiritual discipline, of like practice without pressure. Ask Jesus, ask Jesus, and then ask your wife, like, what? Come on, you play in the sandbox. We've already got the list of failures. Like, let's ask him. And so it there's been so much there, and we can riff on that too. But I would love for you guys to hear it. Yeah.
This is going to sound like a pretty surprising failure, but there was a succession of years, like 3 or 4, young marriage, where I thought the way to do this right is the really nice restaurant. It's the linen tablecloth. It's the hushed atmosphere. It's the, big dollar meal. I thought that was what you do, right? That's what a guy does to come through. Yeah. The problem was she didn't enjoy that. And so I wasn't working in a currency that the bank recognized.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, oh, thank you. You know me so well. This is exactly what we would both sit there so uncomfortable. You like be on your best manners, right? Because you're in a fine restaurant, and it was an attempt, but it was almost over the top. I think I was trying to overcome fear and a deep sense of inadequacy, and also my dislike of the day, because I don't like being told, be loving, be romantic on a particular cue.
Yes.
I think I went over the top and only added more pressure to it. Like the pressure she was feeling then. I've got to put on a really nice dress. I got to look really, And so that did not produce joy.
Plus Valentine's Day, they say in the restaurant industry, is the absolute worst day to go because the staff is stressed, overworked.
Yes.
Everybody in the restaurant feels like you do. Right? The guy, pressure. Yes. So you've got all these people together in this pressure cooker situation, right?
Yeah.
For Kelly and me, the things that I did that I think derailed it the most was I treated Valentine's Day in my mind like I would have Christmas or her birthday, where it was a surprise. Mm-hmm. Like I need to do something without consulting her, but that just is this amazing thing that I unveil, whether it's a restaurant or a piece of jewelry or whatever. And she told me recently, like, honey, on Valentine's Day, I don't want the big surprise. I want to do something with you that's just fresh and different and new. Like, I don't want to go to a restaurant maybe that we would normally go to if we go out to eat. But I just want to...
Your Mexican restaurant?
Right. The one we go to every night. But she was like, but let's just do something fun. Maybe we're going out bowling. Maybe we're going to a place that we've always talked about in Denver that's an hour drive. That's nothing big, but just the two of us. And I realized that was my biggest blow it every year was I felt like I have to come up with this custom itinerary when instead she wanted to be part of the conversation
Yeah.
and do something
Right.
just fun together.
Right. Okay. So I need to hit the pause button because I'm also, guys, I also realize, friends, that half of the people listening to this podcast right now are not celebrating Valentine's Day for a variety of reasons. They're not in a relationship. They're not looking for a relationship right now. They're just out of a relationship or for a variety of reasons. Even, some dear friends who have lost loved ones in the last year. So I just want to pause everybody and say, we understand, like we get that. We don't mean to be teeing up an exclusive show. It just happens to be Valentine's week. And so we thought we'd riff on that a little bit, but just to acknowledge, look, for some people, they're not even looking forward to the 14th. And I would say, tuck your hearts into God.
Yeah.
Ask him to speak. Ask him to catch you.
Yes.
What are you saying to me, lover of my soul? Right? God is the great lover of my soul.
Yes.
What are you saying today? And then even, spouses that are in difficult marriages right now or estranged, headed into divorce, like, catch my heart, Jesus. Catch my heart, Father. What are you, the true lover of my soul, saying to me today? Like, bring me there.
That's
Because look, half the audience is not planning like we are to try and rescue something meaningful out of the day. So I just wanted to say that.
It's so good because already just that alone, whether you're planning or not planning, I can feel just the relief and the, oh my gosh, there's a bigger story going on. And I'm in God's family now.
That's
it's not
good.
just Conrad and his tiny, his little dot on the map. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So good.
Yeah. Okay. So notes from the playbook that have been successful. And I think, Alan, you just teed a huge one up for couples to say, can you talk about it ahead of time? Can you talk about what you'd like to do?
Right.
And so Stace and I do that. And to disarm it, we'll often go out the night before and the restaurant staff love it. They're like, thank you. Tomorrow is so pressure filled. They'll literally thank
That's
us
cool.
for coming in the day before because, it's just much more chill. Take the pressure off. Or we'll do things like go out to breakfast instead of dinner. And it's fun and playful. And there's no linen tablecloths and there's just none of the clinking glasses and the, starry eyes and just none of that pressure.
Yeah.
Right. And it's fun. We go out, we exchange cards and that sort of thing at breakfast.
Yeah. For me, similar thing, young kids, life feels crazy. Like trying to find a date night sometimes it's
impossible.
I feel like what Jesus has been leading me into and us more recently, the times I've enjoyed the most is when we're able to grab just like the 5 minutes when all of a sudden the kids are playing too quiet upstairs and probably drawing on the walls or destroying something, but have this moment. And instead of looking at schedules and like figuring everything out, we're able to just like sit and like, how's your heart? Like, how are you right now? And those have been some of my favorite moments. And it's along the lines of just, where's my attention? Where am I putting my attention? Where am I investing it? And putting my attention into my marriage, my wife, what does she need today? How can we connect instead of, because, most of our conversations feel like we're coworkers, right? Like we just grabbed a conference room, we got 5 minutes to plan a really intense schedule for the afternoon. One of us has to leave in 3.
Yeah.
And as soon as we open our mouths, all of a sudden the door is banging. The entire office is banging on the door, grabbing office chairs, throwing them into the glass, breaking them. Can't hear ourselves think. And at that moment, I'm not thinking, what's God doing in your life?
Right.
So, in another life, I used to work a lot with labor unions and they have kind of these forced 15-minute breaks, right? So you work a little while and they're all in while they're working and going on the mission. Step outside find their 15-minute break whenever that came. Be outside on a bench or something, and suddenly they're a different person. You're chatting like, hey, what's going on with, this weekend? Where are you going? Are you getting together with your wife, your friends?
Yep.
And they're a human again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the piece Jesus is leading me into is like, find my 15 minutes, find the 15, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how do we connect? Sometimes it's been breakfast. We'll drop the kids off for school and connect for breakfast before work.
Right
so
on.
yeah,
that's good. That's really good. I think permission to be at the stage of life is what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
It's like, look, man, the young kid stage is just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's chaos.
Yes.
And to give each other some space and some attention is a luxury. So what can you do then?
Right.
Like find the thing you can do.
Yeah. In the stage of life I'm in right now, it's Kelly, as obviously we want to celebrate together and I want to honor and love her well, but I have a daughter in college in another state. And so how can I reach out to her 21-year-old heart and help her feel a father's love on that day in a genuine way without pressure, but in love. And then my mom, I recently moved across the country here. So she's 5 minutes away in a retirement community. And just last weekend, I went over to her. She has an apartment in this, facility place, community. And on the door, I found a really fun wreath, a Valentine's heart-shaped wreath, this sparkly and things that I could just put on her front door there. And she's talked to me about that 3-4 times since, like how special every time she comes back to her room. So it's, whether it's a mom or whether it's a daughter, like an old daughter or a younger daughter, like I think the season we're in, it's as men, is how do we love well with our wives if we're married, but also looking down at children and looking up at a mom if she's still around or somebody else special in our life.
Okay, that's really good. So guys listening to this, it's not about the pressure. It's not about failure. It's not about performance. If you take all that off the table and you say, how do I love? How do I love well? We just got to give you a quick insight into the feminine heart here. Tomboy, athlete, wherever they are on the spectrum, every woman longs to be seen. So it's that attention thing. Yes. You have my full attention, right? They long to be seen and they long to be pursued. I am interested in you, in your heart, in your story. How are you doing this week? What's going on? What are you dreaming about these days? Honey, if something really wonderful could happen this year, what would that be? Questions like that. They love that. Yeah. So here's your aging mother in a retirement facility, but every time she sees the sparkly wreath on the door, she's like, oh, my son sees me.
Yeah, she feels loved. Somebody is there for her, even though her husband has passed away.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, it's so good. I think in that same idea and same kind of category of like moving away from the pressure and just moving to like thinking and seeing thinking of and seeing our brides or the women that we love. It's been a practice of mine. Morg has helped me with this of get them the same gift every year and you become more present every year. And so in a decade, so for example, what it is for the Shottle girls is we get them new shoes every year. Samantha and the girls, and now we'll welcome Braddock in there too, because I love him too, right? And we get new shoes on Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's fun.
And
like that.
And the point is for me, I'm a chronic recovering performer of just what's the actual one target I got to hit, and I'll hit it.
Yes.
And so it takes the pressure off of the gift if I already know what it is. And if they already know what it is, and now I can focus on bringing my attention and my affection and just thinking of them and seeing them a little more. And so I'm 32 now, and at 42, hopefully my 17-year-old daughter and 15-year-old daughter and 13-year-old son and my bride, we can all find ourselves at a shoe store and I can have over a decade become even more loving and present. And so it's those little things of it doesn't have to be the grand slam every year.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the grand slam every year. That's good.
That's really good.
Conrad.
Yeah. Thanks.
I really like the idea of talk about it. Sweetheart, what would you love this year? What would you like to do? You want to make dinner at home together and just do something simple at home this year? Or obviously you've got the kids. What should we do with the kids? How can it be fun? Is it game night?
Yeah.
Right. And listen to the desires, listen to the expectations. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And take the pressure off. I'm talking to guys here. Take the pressure off your wife to validate you through whatever you do. Like that.
Ruh-roh.
No woman wants to feel like the guy tried to come through and now he's, looking for approval or is this going to result in the romantic evening afterwards? Or, like if you can love well without expecting her to give you a card back or a gift back, like to be able just to go, I just want to love you well. And whether that's dinner at home, like you said, cooking in the kitchen or together, or whether that's doing something, like to be able to offer it without this look over your, kind of over at her all the time, over the table, like, is it working? Does she like it?
Totally. This is a home run, right, babe?
Yeah, right.
I'm crushing it, right?
Right.
Tell me I'm crushing it. Yeah.
How's your dinner?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Other simple things that have been really joyful over the years is watch a movie together. And let her pick, it isn't Die Hard 17, it isn't Gladiator, probably, right? To sit down, like there's a movie that we love called About Time.
It's good.
Oh my gosh, so romantic, such a great story. To sit down and just watch that together, and with whatever you happen to be having, takeout, Chinese takeout, Thai food. Yeah. Really, really fun. And it's another sort of, how do we disarm the evening, but also make it special? Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even doing it together necessarily. Like you could say,
you're in separate rooms watching a movie.
Not with the movie. Watch the movie together.
Hang on, Alan.
But like to tell your wife, hey, I bought you a spa pass. And why don't you go out today, whether it's the 14th or the 13th, but go out and just let this be an experience of lavishness, pedicure, manicure, massage, whatever. But, like those are kind of things you can pour into them that isn't necessarily where you're present the whole time, but they come back rejuvenated and really appreciated.
Yep.
That's good.
Any other suggestions from the playbook?
Yeah, the ask is so important. Whenever I shared the story about the flowers, of like, Samantha said, Conrad, I don't like flowers. And what that's turned into is, in addition to the shoes, is just, so I asked her, okay, so what do you want instead of flowers? Because in my mind, I saw my dad get my mom flowers every Valentine's Day. Yeah. Thank God. Like, thanks for leading the way and showing me that like a gift is needed. And like, that was awesome, Dad. And there's some distinction there. And so I finally, Samantha, what would you like besides flowers? I would love chocolate covered strawberries. It's so simple. Like, and in my mind, I'm like, I got to get the linen tablecloths, the flowers, and the chocolate strawberries. And Jesus is like, no, just do the strawberries. And it's enough. And it is, because not only is she seen, but she's responded to and listened to, right?
Yeah.
So often I overcomplicate the thing, not just Valentine's Day, but
yes,
the marriage in general. And
yeah, that's good. Okay, I'm gonna give you another one. Sitting in the sage seat, I do have quite a few miles on these tires.
Yeah,
that in a note, in a card, perhaps verbally, but I think written down. This is who I see. I see you, and this is why I think you're beautiful. And to just name the things. You're the kindest person I know. You're so great with our kids. You're just amazing when people are unkind to you. You're so forgiving. Like just to name, here, I see you, and this is why I think you're beautiful. And it's not about weight and it's not about hair, right? It's about her. It's about her heart.
Yes.
That's a home run, guys, to be able to put some words to it. Women crave words, and men can starve the woman in their life from words. So like, bring your words forward.
Yeah.
Tell her what you see.
That's really good.
It is. It's so good.
So the last thing I would add, guys, is just take the pressure off yourself by asking God what your wife, or if you're not married, your girlfriend, or perhaps your daughter, or whoever in your life, what do they need? Because God knows them far better than you do.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what they're struggling with, wrestling with, and He also knows your heart. And so to me, it takes the pressure off if we can pull back, not 1 hour before, but even a day before, and just go, God, what does she most need? And how can I help be Jesus to her through you, and not the shiny, sparkly, fancy, thing that the world says we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good. That is a truism for anything you care about. Christmas, a vacation, a child's birthday that you want to go well. Anything you care about, you have got to invite God into it. Come into this, Father. Come into this, Jesus. How should we live this out?
Yes.
Walking with God through it can just change so much, because love is opposed. Intimacy is opposed. Joy is opposed. And so I'm going to land this Valentine's Day podcast with a different angle here. So this is now for everyone. If any of our single friends are still listening, this is for everybody. Birthdays, significant moments, and days like Valentine's Day raise in every human heart your feelings around love. Everyone has a story of love, and it's a very mixed story. It's how you learned love in your life, which was probably for many people very conditional, perhaps even abusive, emotionally, verbally, manipulation. Everyone has a story of love. We all do. How love came to us, how it didn't come to us. And this is actually one of the most important parts of any human story. How did you learn love? And Valentine's Day for me always brings that up. And because here's where it takes me. It takes me back to grade school and the little Valentines and the paper bags on the back of the public school, kind of thing. And how many you got, and if that special person that you were hoping puts a little card in there doesn't, or right? We all have a story of love, and being seen or not being seen, being rewarded for being pretty, but not being pursued for who we really are. All that, right? Invite Jesus into that this week. Like, ask him in, say, Lord, I need to really know more about my story of love and how I've learned love in my life, and because I want that story healed. I want my story of love healed by the love of God, so that I can love better and so that I can receive love as well. That's everyone's story this week. Whatever you're doing on the 14th pales in comparison to what I have just said in the last 30 seconds. Your story of love is central to the story of your life. And to invite God into that and show me, what did I learn about love, Lord? I'm not even sure I know, or many of you do. Lord, please come into that. Please come into the fear still around love, or the withdrawal, the isolation, whatever it may be. Please come into that. Meet me here this week. Let's redeem the whole week.
Yeah, it's so good.
Right? With that kind of approach and that kind of prayer.